Hi everyone, Mike here with you guys once again, and we are continuing my 2016 video game collection series with my PS3 game collection. This may or may not be a two-parter, but we will see. So let's get started. These are just the disc-based games. The digital downloads will be in a different video. Anyways, we're starting off with NHL 08. This is the first sports game I got for this console, and I don't actually play these sports games. I just let the CPU play both sides, and I just watch it like it's a real game because I'm a nerd. Yeah. So that's NHL 08. Come next up is Infamous, and I was actually disappointed with the open world aspect, because you're always getting shot at, and it's kind of annoying. The quests are pretty fun though. And the powers are pretty cool, and it was one of the earlier games to do a morality system before it became like standard. So yeah, Infamous. Next up, we have Midway Arcade Origins. It's basically a bunch of classic arcade games from Midway. You got Pit Fighter, you have Sinistar, which used to scare me when I was a kid, Defender, and a whole bunch of other games. So if you like classic arcade games, this is definitely worth owning. Next up is another sports game, NBA 2K11, and even by today's standards, this game looks impressive. The graphics on this thing still hold up today. So I'm pretty sure they're nowhere near as good as modern NBA 2K games, but still, this is still pretty neat to look at. Next up, we have Journey Collector's Edition. It comes with Journey, Flower, Flow, and some other games. I don't really care for Flow, I just couldn't get into it. Flower is really good, and Journey is absolutely stunning and beautiful and worth your time. So, if you love exploration-only games where all you do is experience a world, definitely pick this up. This is definitely my type of experience. Next up is Star Wars The Force Unleashed, and it's basically a hack and slash with Star Wars. The story for this game is actually pretty good. It deals with Darth Vader's secret apprentice, and it basically talks about the formation of the rebellion. So definitely pick this up if you're a Star Wars fan. I mean, there are better Star Wars games out there now, but still, I'm pretty sure you can get this for cheap now. Next up is Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, and if you are into Studio Ghibli, this is basically a Studio Ghibli game story that you play. It's turn-based, so it's hard, and it's not really so much hard. It's more like there's a learning curve to it. But if you're an anime fan, this is worth owning. And it was one of the first JRPGs in modern times that had some real positive attention to it in recent years. Next is Gran Turismo 5. I got this to drive around the custom soundtracks, but unfortunately all I got was having to hear the same song on repeat, so that was disappointing. And plus, there are huge updates when you first get it that take forever. Anyways, Gran Turismo 5. I've barely touched this thing. Next up is UFC Undisputed 2009. I got it super cheap. Super easy to play. The only downside, I can't watch the CPUs fight each other. Next up is a game I used to play a lot, and that was SSX. I would literally just cram my PlayStation with music to snowboard to, and just let this game play it. And that alone is what made me keep going and keep playing and playing and playing this game. I recently played it again after having not played it in years, and man, it was fun to revisit. So yeah. Next up is MLB The Show 09. Oh no, MLB 09 The Show, and it's another sports game. If I talk about a sports game before, the same applies to all sports games pretty much. I basically just watch the gameplay itself. Nerd. Everything I just said for the last game goes to this one as well. And next up is comedy gold right here. Portal 2, it's a dark comedy disguised as a puzzle game. The humor is brilliant. There's a dark story here, but it's told in a very funny way, and the puzzles are very clever as well. and the characters, GLaDOS and Wheatley, are just phenomenal. So definitely pick this one up. It's a must-own. Next up is Skate 3. And basically, I just skate around. What I do is I skate around the pool listening to punk rock. That's what I do. I use my own custom soundtrack so I could fill it with 90s punk, and I skate to it in an empty pool. Next up is, okay, I gotta be careful here. Little Big Planet 1 and 2. I mainly got this for the custom games. There's tons of custom games for this. This is one of the earliest games that really popularized the custom game genre. It's much more common now, but back when this came out, it was revolutionary. So if you want to create your own game or play other people's games, this is worth picking up. Next up is Street Fighter 4. And Street Fighter, what can I say? You can even watch the computer play itself if you want. But it's a pretty easy game until you get to the final boss, Seth, and then it gets too hard. But up until that point, this is a fun game. If you're a fan of Street Fighter 4, if you're a fan of Street Fighter, honestly, you already played this game, or some sort of iteration of it. Next up is Heavenly Sword, and it was fun until I got to the 6-axis feature where you have to use a 6-axis controller to aim your weapon, and that took me out of it. So disappointing, because it was fun up until that part of the game. Next up is the Uncharted PS3 trilogy. I have to emphasize PS3 now because there's other games in the series, but I consider this the PS3 trilogy. Drake's Fortune is my least favorite. There's fewer set pieces, and the platforming isn't as precise as the other two games. Uncharted 2 and 3 I view are tied for best. A lot of people like Uncharted 2 better, but I really like 2 and 3 equally. There's just some wow moments in 2 and 3. And Uncharted 2 basically showed the world how powerful the cell processor really is. And it took years to figure it out, but we got there. And I would even say it helped prolong the 7th generation of consoles. I really do. So yeah, unforgettable characters, great set pieces, just overall a fun summer blockbuster that you can play. The Uncharted PS3 trilogy. Pick these up. Preferably on PS4 if you can. Do the Nathan Drake collection, unless you really care about the old multiplayer maps. Yeah, I'll go back to this later. Let's see, what's next? We have Kingdom Hearts 1.5. It comes with Kingdom Hearts 1. Comes with, actually Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories, and the cutscenes for Kingdom Hearts 358/2 Days, which, by the way, I felt was a very tragic story. It was pretty emotional. Anyways, if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan, this is definitely worth picking up. You never thought Disney and Final Fantasy could work together, but they managed to pull it off. Next up is Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City. Two of the best Batman games ever made. Arkham Asylum is creepy and dark, and Arkham City lets you explore an open world and be Batman and go wherever you want. This is how Batman should be. Yeah, the Arkham series. This is the pinnacle of, in my opinion, the pinnacle of Batman video games. At least for right now. Anyways, next up is Ico, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and Shadow of the Colossus. Two classic games. Very minimalistic in dialogue, but yet very heavy in rich narrative. And that's very poetic to do. They take place in a really dark world, but there's a beauty to it and a sadness to the world as well. Ico is a puzzle-based... They're both puzzle-based games, but in their own way. Like, Ico is basically a long escort mission, and Shadow of the Colossus is a collection of boss battles and huge moments of contemplation and exploration in between the boss battles. So, yeah. if you haven't played these yet, it's worth picking up, but I do warn you, the controls on Shadow of the Colossus are really weird, and they're very difficult. They can be very difficult to master. Just thought I'd give you a heads up about that. Next up is Mortal Kombat. This is the reboot of the franchise, and it brought Mortal Kombat back into the gaming consciousness again. And if you get it on PlayStation, you get to play as Kratos, so that's a bonus. Anyways, next up is Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots, and it's filled with cutscenes, which I love. However, it's a stealth-based game, so it's too hard for me. Next up is Killzones 2 and 3. I don't have Killzone 1, unfortunately, but Killzone 2 I didn't really care for because it was too hard to control, but Killzone 3, they really casualized it, which made it much easier for me, so I enjoyed playing Killzone 3 more, at least playing against bots. I didn't like playing the campaigns because even in Killzone 3 they had you use the 6-axis controls. Boo! But yeah, I do enjoy playing Bot Zone in Killzone 3. Next up is Dead Space 2. I have Dead Space 1 and 3 on the 360. I got 2 on PS3 because when I got this game I only had a PS3 and I wanted a horror game. And this comes with Dead Space Extraction, which is a Wii game. If you love horror, if you love the first Dead Space, this one does not disappoint. There's a bit more action set pieces here, but it's still basically the first game, again, with a little bit more variety and subtle improvements here now. And plus, Isaac Clarke talks. Next up is Resistance 1 and 2. Resistance Fall of Man and Resistance 2. I like 2 better than 1 because it's easier, because they give you regenerating health. I don't have 3, so I can't really say too much on that. But, yeah, the Resistance series. Very underrated series, in my opinion. This did not get the attention it deserved. Unfortunately, there's no more online multiplayer for this game. Next up is Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and Call of Duty Black Ops. These games are way too hard for me, I gotta say. It's hard to find enemies. You know, if you get into an open area, especially when you're outside, and there's enemies shooting at you in all directions, it can be very difficult to see them and end up dying a lot. Many people consider 4 the best, but Black Ops does have its fans. I enjoyed what I love about the Black Ops series was it introduced bots, and I love playing bots. So there you go. That's that for there. Next up, we have a very overrated franchise, in my opinion, Assassin's Creed 2. My problem with Assassin's Creed, the series, and 2 is no exception. A couple of things. One, there's unnecessary narrative, mainly the Desmond Miles stuff, the whole Animus. And 2, the jumping mechanics, the platforming is very wonky. You know, if you try to climb on a building that is not climbable, you automatically jump to the other side, and when enemies are chasing you, that can be very confusing. So yeah, very overrated in my opinion. I understand why it has its fans, and there's definitely things to like about the series, but it's just not for me. Next up is GTA 4 and episodes from Liberty City. It's literally all the GTA 4 stuff. What I love about this game in particular is you can go to an online map by yourself, turn the cops off, and just go on a murder rampage. So yeah, you can literally play GTA the way that conservatives and worried parents think you play it. So yeah, and I also love listening to the radio and watching the TV. This is the pinnacle of open world franchises. This and the Elder Scrolls, in my opinion. I've spent so much time playing this, definitely a must-own. In fact, I got it as soon as I got my PS3, like the very next day, because I got it for Christmas, the PS3. Very next day, I picked up GTA. Okay, we're about running out of time here, and I don't have that many games left to do in the part. So here's Heavy Rain, very film noir, not really film noir, but more of a suspense thriller, and it's very dark and very emotional, and it's a must-own. It was ahead of its time. It doesn't really hold up by today's standards because so many games have improved on it, but back in the day, this was revolutionary, and it's still worth playing in my opinion. Next up is Catherine. Very underrated, very unique game. It's a puzzle platformer, dating sims, horror game. And the cutscenes are an anime, and it's from the creators of the Persona series. This is, if you want something interesting that deals with subject matter you don't find in games normally, pick this one up. Next up is the God of War Saga. Comes with 1, 2, 3, and the 2 PSP games. So it's basically all the games except for Ascension. So if you're a fan of this franchise, definitely worth getting this. A couple more games here. L.A. Noire. This game I felt got treated unfairly by a lot of people. A lot of people thought it was too repetitive, but you're not supposed to play it all in one sitting. You're really supposed to play, especially the long cases, one case at a time. You do that, and it's a fun, very unique game to play. It's a detective sim on a large scale, and that alone makes it interesting. Finally, we have Beyond Two Souls. This is a steel case, Star Helen Page. I have to say, the problem with Beyond Two Souls is that it didn't have focus. There were too many ideas going on, too many genres going on at once, and I felt like they should have picked one type of story or one type of experience and stuck with it. Instead, they try to be action. They try to be horror. They try to be, more emotional. It just tried to be too much at once, and I feel like that hurt the game narratively. But the parts in themselves are very well done. So it's still worth picking up, especially on the cheap now. And that is it for my PlayStation 3 video game collection. I got all my PS3 games done in one video. So stay tuned, because coming up, I'm going to be starting on my H-Gen collection, my PS4 and my Xbox One games. So stay tuned for those. And also in the future, stay tuned for my digital collection for my consoles as well. That's all, guys. That's all for now, guys. Take care.